If you want to make a man think about you long after you've left the room, it's not about being the most beautiful, the funniest, or even the most perfect. It's about saying the one thing almost no woman ever says, but every man is secretly craving to hear. You know what's crazy? Most women think men don't need compliments. They think men are these confident, self-assured creatures who never second-guess themselves. But here's the truth. Men are starved for genuine words of affirmation. Not the kind of shallow praise they're used to, but the kind that makes them feel seen on a deeper level. Most men go through their lives without ever hearing the one thing that would light them up inside, and because of that, they crave it silently. When a man hears, "You're so hot," or "You're so strong," sure, he might smile. He might even puff up his chest for a second. But here's the thing, he's heard that before. It doesn't touch his soul. It doesn't make him sit up at night thinking about you. What does? The rare moment when a woman notices something about him that others overlook. The way he lights up when he talks about something he loves, the way he treats people, or the passion he brings to his life. That kind of compliment, the one that reflects his character, not just his appearance, is like oxygen to a man. Imagine saying to a guy, "I love how driven you are." It's not just that you're ambitious, it's that you care so deeply about doing things that matter. It's inspiring to watch. Do you know what happens in that moment? You pierce through the surface. He feels not just admired, but understood. And here's why that matters. Because most men feel like they're constantly performing. For their boss, for their friends, for the world. Even for the women they date. They're showing up with this image of who they think they need to be. But when you see behind that mask and acknowledge something real in him, it creates a connection that's unforgettable. He can't help but want to be around the person who saw that part of him. Because it feels rare, it feels safe, and it feels special. Now, let me tell you why most women don't do this. It's not because they're unkind or selfish. It's because society tells us that men are the confident ones, the strong ones, the ones who don't need emotional nurturing. And so women assume men don't want or even notice these deeper compliments. But they do. In fact, they notice them even more because they're so rare. Think about it. Women often say they wish men would compliment them on their intelligence, their humor, or their creativity, not just their looks. Why? Because those are the compliments that feel like they see you for you. Men feel the same way. He doesn't want to just be the guy with broad shoulders or a nice smile. He wants to be the man who's respected for his integrity, for his ambition, for his kindness. When you're the woman who says, "I noticed how patient you were when you explained that thing to your friend. It was really impressive," you're saying something no one else does. You're showing him that you're not just looking at the surface. And that's rare. I know some women worry. If I give him that kind of validation, won't he get cocky? Won't he think he doesn't have to try anymore? No, that's not how it works. The right man doesn't stop trying when he feels admired. He actually tries harder because he's drawn to the person who made him feel like he mattered. Most people in his life are quick to criticize, quick to demand, quick to expect more. You can be the exception. You can be the one who builds him up in a way that doesn't feed his ego but feeds his soul. And that's the difference. This isn't about flattery or manipulation. It's about creating a real connection. Because when a man feels emotionally validated, when he feels like you see the best in him, he starts associating that feeling with you. That's what makes him think about you when he's lying in bed at night. That's what makes him want to protect you, cherish you, and prioritize you. So, the next time you're with a man you care about, or even one you're just starting to get to know, look for the thing no one else is saying. Look for the effort, the passion, the goodness in him that others overlook, and then say it out loud. Not in a way that feels rehearsed, but in a way that's real. Because in a world where 90% of women are giving him surface-level validation, you can be the Neen who actually sees him. And trust me, That changes everything. Do you know what's fascinating? Most people think that men are these invincible creatures who never need to be asked how they're doing. We walk around believing they're strong, slick, and completely self-sufficient. But the truth is, most men live their entire lives without ever feeling like someone truly sees them. Sure, they might get the occasional, "How's your day?" or "You good?" But that's not the same as someone leaning in and saying, "No, really, how are you?" And when that happens, it's a game changer, because suddenly he realizes you're not just another person in his life. You're someone who's actually curious about his inner world. You see, women often complain about men putting up walls. He's emotionally unavailable. He never opens up. It feels like he's hiding a part of himself from me. And while yes, some guys are guarded, most of them aren't walking around with a rule book that says, never show emotions. What's really happening is that the world hasn't made it safe for them to open up. From the time they're boys, they're told to toughen up, suck it up, be a man. So they grow up thinking no one really wants to hear about their fears, their doubts, or the weight they carry. Now imagine you come along and you break that pattern. You're not just asking questions to fill the silence or to make polite conversation. You're genuinely interested. You pause, look him in the eye, and ask him about something that's not surface level. Instead of, "Did you have a good day?" you say, "What's been on your mind lately?" Or, "What's been stressing you out these days?" And then, this is crucial, you actually listen. You're not waiting to jump in with your own story or to fix anything. You're just there, holding space for him. When you do this, something incredible happens. He starts to feel like he doesn't have to perform around you. He doesn't have to put on the mask he wears for the world. For maybe the first time in a long time, he gets to exhale. And let me tell you, there's nothing more magnetic to a man than a woman who makes him feel like he can put the armor down. Most women think attraction is about making him chase, playing hard to get, or always looking flawless. And yes, those things might catch his eye in the beginning, but if you want to stay in his heart, you've got to go deeper. You've got to make him feel something he doesn't feel with anyone else. And that starts with seeing the parts of him no one else bothers to see. When you ask a man how he's really doing, you're not just making conversation. You're telling him, "I see you," not the guy you present to the world, not the version of you everyone praises for being strong and capable. "I see the real you, and I like him." That is rare, that is powerful, and that is the thing he will think about at night when he's lying in bed, wondering why you feel so different. But let me warn you, when you ask him these questions, you might get short answers at first. He might say, "I'm fine," or "It's nothing." Don't take that personally. He's not shutting you out. He's testing the waters. He's asking himself, "Do I really have permission to open up? Is it safe here?" This is where most women give up. They take his surface answer as a rejection and retreat back into small talk. But the rare woman, the one who stays curious and patient, is the one who earns his trust. Because when he finally realizes that you're not going to judge him, that you're not going to use his vulnerability against him later, he'll start to tell you things he hasn't told anyone. And that's when you know you've crossed the threshold from being just another person in his life to being the person he can't imagine his life without. So the next time you're with him, instead of thinking about what you should say to impress him, think about what you could ask to understand him. Don't be afraid to go deeper. Don't be afraid to create a space where he feels seen. Because once a man feels that with you, he'll never want to let it go. You know what's interesting? So many women assume that the way to make a man feel wanted is by telling him how attractive he is, or how successful he is, or how lucky they feel to be with him. And while those compliments can feel good in the moment, they're not the ones that stick. They're not the ones he replays in his mind when he's lying awake at night thinking about you. Because here's the truth. What men secretly crave isn't surface-level validation. What they crave is for a woman to notice the effort behind the man, not just the outcomes he produces. Think about it. The world praises men for what they achieve, their job title, their bank account, the car they drive. But very few people, if any, stop to recognize the energy, the persistence, and the quiet sacrifices it took for him to get there. That's why when you're the rare woman who says something like, "I can tell how hard you've been working on that project," it's inspiring to see how much you care. It doesn't just make him smile. It pierces right through to his core. It's powerful because it tells him you see him not as a finished product or a trophy to display, but as a human being who's showing up every day, trying his best. And in a world that's constantly demanding more from him, you become the one person who gives him a sense of peace, validation, and even admiration for the things he thinks nobody notices. Let me give you an example. Imagine a man who's been putting in crazy hours at work. Most people see the results, maybe a promotion, maybe some financial wins, and they pat him on the back for his success. But nobody notices the nights he stayed up, worrying about failing, the mornings he dragged himself out of bed despite being exhausted, or the fact that he's been carrying the weight of trying to make everyone proud. So when you're the one who says, I can see how much effort you're putting into this. It really shows how much you care. You're speaking to a part of him that's been starving for recognition. And it's not about inflating his ego or buttering him up. It's about seeing the man beneath the armor, the one who's tired of only being valued for what he can provide. When you validate his effort, you're telling him, you are worthy even when no one else notices. That's rare. That's magnetic. Here's what most people get wrong. They wait for a big moment to say something meaningful. But men don't need grand speeches. They crave the subtle moments where you show that you're paying attention. When he fixes something around the house, instead of a quick, "Thanks," you say, "I love how you just jumped in to take care of that. It makes me feel so safe with you." Or when he shares a small win at work, you say, "I know how hard you worked for that. It's amazing to see it paying off." Those words, simple as they are, land differently because they're about who he is, not just what he does. The irony is, most men will never tell you this is what they want. Why? Because the world has conditioned them to be stoic, to act like they don't need emotional nourishment. But the truth is, they're human. They ache to feel appreciated, not just for the results they deliver, but for the effort, the persistence, and the heart they put into everything. And here's where it gets even more powerful. When you start noticing his effort, you awaken a side of him that wants to give even more to you. Not because you're demanding it, but because you've become the one place where he feels deeply valued. He'll associate you with warmth, safety, and a sense of being truly seen. And that, more than anything, is what makes a man attach himself to you on an emotional level. So the next time you want to make a man's heart skip a beat, not because of what you look like, but because of how you make him feel, don't just compliment his achievements. Compliment the man behind him. Recognize his effort. Notice the invisible battles he's fighting. And tell him the truth that almost no one else does. I see you. Because when a man feels seen in this way, you don't just make him feel good for a moment. You become unforgettable. You know what's fascinating? So many women I meet will tell me they want to connect with a man on a deeper level, but when they actually get into those moments, when they have the chance to create that spark, they stay on the surface. They'll compliment his looks, his humor, maybe even his success. But here's the thing. What most people don't realize is that underneath all of that, men are walking around with a question they rarely in this world even matter. Does what I'm doing in this world even matter? And the few women who speak to that, they're unforgettable. Because deep down, every man craves a sense of purpose. And when you're the person who can reflect that back to him, you tap into a part of him that almost no one else does. Most men live in a space where they feel like they have to constantly do to earn approval. They're hustling to prove something, maybe to their family, their peers, or even to themselves. And the sad truth? A lot of people in their lives see the results but don't see them. They'll say, "Congrats on the promotion," or "You're killing it at the gym," but they don't notice the why behind all of it. They don't see the man who's striving because he wants to create stability or because he wants to feel proud of himself when he looks in the mirror. So imagine this. You're talking to a guy, and instead of just saying, "That's cool, it's cool that you're running your own business," you say, "You know what I admire? The fact that you've built something from the ground up because you care about having an impact." That's not flattery. That's acknowledgement. That's seeing a part of him he probably doesn't get to show to most people. And I promise you, in that moment, something shifts. He may not say it right away, but on the inside, he's thinking, "Wow, she actually sees me." And it's not about stroking his ego. It's about speaking to the part of him that is often invisible. The part that wants to feel like what he's doing isn't just ticking boxes, but that it matters in the eyes of someone he respects. When you can do that, you create a gravitational pull, because you're no longer just someone he's attracted to. You're someone he feels understood by. And that's rare. That's the kind of thing that makes him think about you at 2 a.m., when his head hits the pillow, wondering how he got so lucky to have found someone like you. The irony is, most women think they're giving enough by complimenting his actions or achievements. But the secret lies in going beneath the action and touching his intention. Because while everyone else says, "You're so successful," or "You're such a hard worker," you're the one who says, "I can tell you really care about leaving something behind that matters." That says a lot about you. That's when you stop being just another person in his life and become someone whose words echo long after you're gone. And the beautiful thing about this is, it doesn't require effort or manipulation. It just requires presence. It requires you to listen, not just to what he's saying, but to what's behind what he's saying. When a man talks about his goals, his work, his passions, listen for the emotion. What's driving him? Is it security, freedom, contribution, pride? Once you find that, reflect it back to him. He might not even realize how much he needed to hear it, but you'll notice it in his body language. The way he softens, the way his eyes light up, the way he leans in a little closer. That's because you've done something that almost no one does. You've reminded him of his purpose. And whether he admits it or not, every man wants to feel like his purpose matters to someone else. So the next time you're with him, take a moment. Don't just say what every other woman says. Go deeper. Speak to his heart, not just his head, because when you do, you're no longer just giving him attention. You're giving him meaning. And meaning is what keeps you on his mind. You know, one of the biggest reasons men pull away from relationships isn't because they don't care. And it's not because they're not interested. It's because of the subtle, invisible pressure they begin to feel over time. Pressure to be more, to give more, to perform better. And the crazy thing is, most of the time, the woman he's with doesn't even realize she's doing it. You might not say the words out loud. You're not sitting there saying, "I need you to do this for me," or "I want you to change this." But energy speaks louder than words. When a man senses that every moment he spends with you comes with an expectation attached, that he has to keep proving himself to maintain your affection, it stops feeling like a connection and starts feeling like a performance. This is why so many men crave the experience of being with a woman who gives them emotional freedom, the freedom to just be, the freedom to exist in her presence without feeling like he's being evaluated or tested. You see, most men walk around with a heavy weight on their shoulders already, the weight of needing to achieve, to provide, to constantly show up in every area of their lives. When they're with you, they don't want to feel like they're carrying that same weight into your relationship. They want you to be their escape from that pressure, not another place where they feel it multiplied. Think about this for a second. When was the last time you looked at a man you liked and said, "You don't have to be anything for me. You don't have to try. You don't have to impress me. You don't have to fix it. I like you for who you already are"? Do you realize how rare those words are? Almost no one says that to men. From the outside, it might look like they're confident, like they've got it all together. But deep down, so many men are walking around terrified that they're not enough, that if they stop trying, if they take the mask off for even a second, someone will stop loving them. And this is where you have the power to completely change the dynamic. Because the moment you stop bringing pressure and start bringing peace, you become the person he wants to come home to, not just physically, but emotionally. Now let me be clear. Giving a man emotional freedom doesn't mean you let go of your standards. It doesn't mean you stop expecting respect, effort, and consistency. That's a given. A man should never feel like he can neglect you or treat you poorly and still keep your love. But there's a difference between holding someone to a standard and suffocating them with an expectation they can never live up to. Emotional freedom is about creating space. It's about letting him know, "I see you. I see the man you already are. And I like that guy." That statement alone does something profound for a man's heart because it tells him he doesn't need to keep running this exhausting race to win you over. And ironically, when you stop demanding more of him, he starts giving you more, not out of obligation, but out of desire. Because here's the secret. Men are most drawn to women who make them feel safe. Not safe in the sense that they're never challenged, but safe in the sense that they don't have to hide. When a man feels like he doesn't have to wear armor around you, he'll choose you over and over again. You can even see this in the little moments, like when he's had a tough day and he's quiet. Instead of asking, "What's wrong? Why aren't you talking to me?" Try saying, "Hey, you don't have to say anything. I'm just happy you're here." That simple shift creates room for him to breathe, and often he'll open up because he doesn't feel cornered into doing it. This is what emotional freedom does. It lowers his walls because it's not asking for more. It's appreciating what's already there. And that appreciation is magnetic. It pulls him closer in a way that no demands ever could. So ask yourself, are you creating space for him to relax into you? Or are you unconsciously adding to the pressure he already feels in life? Are you making him feel like he can exhale when he's with you, or does he feel like he has to inhale deeply and prepare to perform? If you want to be unforgettable to a man, become the person who gives him the rarest gift of all, the gift of emotional freedom. When he feels that with you, he'll crave your presence in a way that goes beyond physical attraction or chemistry. He'll crave it because you're the one place in the world where he doesn't have to be anything but himself. You know, there's something I've noticed about men that almost no one talks about. On the outside, they can look like they've got it all together. They seem confident, driven, even untouchable at times. But underneath that exterior, there's often this quiet fear they carry that who they are isn't enough, that no matter how hard they try, someone will eventually see their flaws, their insecurities, and decide to walk away. It's subtle, but it's there. And because of that, most men live with this constant pressure to perform, to impress, to keep proving their worth over and over again. And you know what's wild? Most women have no idea this is going on. They assume men are self-assurance, that they don't need reassurance, that they don't crave validation the way women do. But the truth is, they crave it deeply, sometimes even more than they'll ever admit. When a man is with a woman, he wants to feel like he's winning with her, like he's enough for her, not because of the car he drives, the money he makes, or even the way he looks. He wants to feel like he can just breathe in her presence, that he doesn't have to be in constant performance mode. And yet, very few women ever communicate this to the man they're with. What most women don't realize is how powerful it is to look a man in the eye and say, "You don't have to impress me. You don't have to do anything to earn my affection. I already think you're amazing just as you are." That one line disarms him. It makes him feel safe in a way he probably hasn't felt in years. Think about it. In the world he lives in, he's constantly being measured. At work, he's competing. In his social circles, he's expected to be strong, funny, and successful. Even in dating, he's been taught to win a woman over, to prove his value, to be desirable enough to keep her attention. So when he meets someone who gives him the gift of acceptance, not because of what he does,